Hey, hello. Um, so I just want to show you what I did yesterday. So today is actually day three of the micro hack, and I've been working on this app for like 3 days now. And yesterday was a very interesting day. I did a lot of interesting, cool things, and I just want to show you how what I have and all the things I got to play around yesterday. Okay, so here's my app. Um, let's run it. So I'm not gonna run it on my phone. I think because you can't see my phone, but it's very good if I do it on my phone. Actually, um, let me just start this. So sometimes it takes like few seconds, maybe a minute or two to just start, but it's gonna start now. While this is opening, let me just also show you. I have been using Grok recently, and I find it like very useful actually, because so far I think for me it works better than ChatGPT because I used to use ChatGPT, so it does explain to me like um, what is happening with each AI, and it actually gives me like ideas of how things work. So I've been just like playing around with it and learning how it works, what it does, um, and all those kind of things. So let me see if it has. Okay, my app has started. Okay, so every time it starts, I have to just grant it permissions. Let me just do this. Okay, so I'm gonna say while using the app, so it doesn't have to ask me every single time. So what it does is it takes a little bit of time when it starts. It's gonna get your location, like your latitude and your longitude. Um, I don't think this is very good exposing my location on the internet, but I think it's okay. So and it's gonna like keep on getting your location where you are basically, and this is the time where the location was fetched. And using this data, obviously, it can calculate your speed, how fast you're moving, and all those kind of things. So I had a little bit of trouble using the API. Even now, it still doesn't work. Which I mean, it's okay. I will try to integrate it later because I don't want to waste time trying to make that work. Um, but what I have here for now is um, so I did yesterday bounce around ideas with Grok, and also just like try and figure out how I'm gonna do it and what I'm gonna do. And so here's what I will spend the day implementing today, because I think it's very cool, and I just think I don't know. I think I should do it this way. So basically, first thing that is important, so we talked about before, is to obviously to not do this every single time. We need to figure out if the user is driving or not. Um, we can kind of do that using even this formula, right? Calculating speed, how fast you travel, and we can tell if you're traveling at a certain speed, you're most likely to be driving. This is 0 0 because I mean, it's running in the emulator on my computer, so it's not moving at all. If I were to do it on my phone, actually, it does show close to accurate speed of how fast I'm traveling. Right? It's not very accurate, but it's close to being accurate. Um, I mean, if I run, it's going to show that I'm covering a lot of meters per second than if I were to just walk. So that's how I tested it. But also Mapbox API, which I think it's more accurate and it's what I will use. It does provide things like speed based on your location, right? And I could then use that for now to determine if the user is driving or not. because for some reason the driving API, the activity API is the Google activity API is not working. I don't know why. It just doesn't work for now. At the very least, I would try to. I would try to activate it and make it work later in the future. Um, so here's what I will try and do. So when I detect that the user is driving, what we try and do, we get the user location and then we store the user location somewhere, right? But we're gonna repeat this 7 times because we wanna get 7 points of the location over time. And if we feed that to Mapbox, the matching API, it could give us uh, entry points to the closest road where the user might be, right? If the user is driving on a recognized road, they'll be put on, on the road, right? If not, then we can't do anything. But if then we do have all those entry points, I do get the latest one, which shows me where the user is most likely to be, right? And once I have that location of where the user is, then I use I think it's called the isochrone API. It's a Mapbox API, isochrone API. So what it does is basically it's gonna take that specific point and it's gonna get all the matching points of where the user might be in, let's say, 30 kilometers, right? So if I give it a certain coordinate, it can calculate, okay, in 30 meters, considering all the turns and all the routes, the user might be in these multiple points in 30 kilometers. That is a very useful data for me, but also because I'm checking over a 5 to 10 kilometer radius, the amount of data that I get back is a lot. It's like literally a lot. I think it will take a lot of resources to run that through a weather API service to check all those points in order to scan all those routes because the possibilities are just like endless. Like it returned to me hundreds of results. Now imagine for one user making hundreds of requests per 5 kilometers to a weather API. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna solve that, but obviously as the user use the app more and more and more and more, they're gonna take the same routes more or less, right? And if they take the same routes like every day, what we could do then, we could use their previous data to kind of like calculate the. Okay, it's a little bit noisy here. I'm just sorry, but it's gonna take the routes that the user will most likely take, and using all those routes that the user will most likely take, then we can cut down. Instead of scanning all routes, you can just scan those few routes that we think the user was most likely take, depending on their previous data that we have on them. And then we can just scan only those few routes. So that's how we could save. But it's gonna be a challenge when the user starts using the app because we're gonna have to use a lot of resources because we don't know anything about them. We may know where they work and their home, but we don't know much about the routes they usually take on this specific day and all those kind of things. And even running that API that is gonna figure out like which route, which probably is gonna something I would create myself, but running that API that will figure out all those kind of routes that the user take and all those kind of things will be a little bit challenging as well, right? Because it's not easy to build something like that. It's not easy at all. It's not that it's not easy, but I think the processing will take a lot of resources. Um, but if it happens on the server side, it'll be good, right? Because you don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with that kind of processing that happens. I think the only disadvantage then, if it happens on the server side, is that obviously you will need data to do those kind of calculations. You won't be able to do them on the main phone, but it saves battery. And also, the disadvantage is that you do technically send user location to a server somewhere, even though that location is not associated with any user, but you still do kind of some user processing and sending some that kind of information to somebody, right? Um, but I feel like that's also going to be very interesting, and I think it's something to note down because I just thought about that now, like using a Python script or whatever language I use. But I think it's better to use Python for this kind of models and stuff. So let me just note that down. Okay. Okay, so that's another very interesting one. But basically, that's what I'm gonna try and do today. So, I already did kind of have like a step by step approach, and I kind of like did planning yesterday, and I kind of like did start playing around with this idea from yesterday. And looking at the Mapbox API, right? So sorry about that. But so, as I did say, just to reiterate what I'm gonna do, scan user location 7 times. I could do it once per second. I mean, if you're in a car, a second is a lot of time. You will have moved a lot in a second, so that's a reasonable amount of time to do it. Even this one on my computer, it works like one per second is gonna do a scan, right? Um, So yeah, I would love to show it on my phone, but I will have to disconnect my mic, right? I don't have another cable. I could use Wi-Fi, but um, yeah, you can get user location, and then once I also one thing that also will save me resources so that I don't have to query the Mapbox API over and over again is I will have to store the user data on our service, right? So if we scan your routes and we see that okay, this um, points that or these are location points you often take, and these location points usually return this kind of data, we could let's say if we scan your points again, we could kind of like match if is there anything on the database on our own database that kind of has this kind of matching points and that can get us the data that we are looking for. Obviously once you start to do an application like this, something like this, what happens is I feel like also there will be a lot of things that I'll have to optimize, which will teach me a lot about algorithms and data structures, patterns, design patterns, and all those kind of things because I'll have to optimize for quite a bit of stuff. Like things have to be happening fast and all. But I'm just excited. I think the whole journey will be exciting. I'm also kind of scared as well, looking at all the things I have to do and looking at the time that I have to do them. It's a little bit scary, I won't lie, but it's also very exciting as well. So I'm looking forward to the journey, looking forward to what I'm gonna build, looking forward to what I'm gonna have, looking forward to having my app on the Play Store. That'll be really amazing. So this is the beginning of it all. This is day three of playing around with this idea and building this app. Um, yeah, I guess I will close it for today. I will come back again tomorrow and I will make another stream tomorrow. Thank you so much if you are listening or tuning in. But yeah,